The alarm buzzed at 5 in the morning, but Sergeant Maria Rodriguez was already awake. She had been for the past hour, staring at the ceiling of her barracks room at Fort Bragg, listening to the familiar sounds of a military base stirring to life. Sleep had become elusive these past 6 months, ever since her reassignment to headquarters company of the 75th Ranger Regiment. On paper, Maria was an administrative specialist. Her days were filled with supply requisitions, personnel transfers, and endless paperwork that felt like a cruel joke after years of operations that pushed the boundaries of what one person could endure. But every morning at 5:30 sharp, she made her way to the secure armory for a ritual that kept her sane. The morning air was crisp as she walked across the training facility grounds. Fort Bragg's Special Operations Complex was a maze of buildings that held secrets most people would never know existed. Maria knew because she had been one of those secrets for nearly 4 years. She punched in her access code and entered the armory, breathing in the familiar scent of gun oil and metal. The solitude was perfect at this hour. No one questioned why an administrative specialist had access to a secure weapons facility, and Maria preferred it that way. Her personal weapons locker sat in the far corner, away from the standard military equipment that lined the walls. Inside the custom case lay her pride and joy, a .338 Lapua Magnum that had been built specifically for her hands. Every component had been selected and modified through years of operational experience that existed only in classified files, buried so deep that most officers had never seen them. The rifle wasn't just a weapon. It was a precision instrument. That represented the culmination of a decade of training and field experience. Maria carefully lifted the rifle from its foam-lined case and placed it on the maintenance bench. The weight felt familiar in her hands, like greeting an old friend. She began her inspection routine with the methodical precision that had once made her one of the military's most valuable assets. The custom barrel gleamed under the fluorescent lights, precision machined by a craftsman who worked exclusively for special operations units. The stock had been modified to fit her exact physical dimensions and shooting style. The trigger system was adjusted to break at precisely 1 point. 8 pounds of pressure with no travel or overrun. Most impressive was the optics package, a Schmidt and Bender scope that cost more than most civilian cars, coupled with a ranging system that could calculate ballistic solutions for targets beyond the effective range of conventional sniper rifles. As she cleaned the bolt face with a specialized brush, Maria reflected on the missions that had created the intimate bond between herself and this weapon. Each deployment had added to a reputation within the classified community, a reputation that existed only in files, requiring general officer clearance to access. The psychological evaluation had been thorough and necessary. 50+ months of continuous operational deployment had pushed her beyond normal human limits. The counselor had explained that symptoms like hypervigilance, sleep disruption, and emotional detachment were common among operators who had seen what she had seen, done what she had done. Your mind needs time to process experiences that most people couldn't comprehend. Dr. Williams had told her during one of their sessions, "The administrative assignment isn't punishment, Sergeant. It's healing." But healing felt a lot like dying when your purpose had been stripped away. The morning maintenance ritual was the only thing that connected her to who she really was beneath the administrative facade. Maria had just finished cleaning the barrel when she heard footsteps approaching the armory entrance. She glanced at her watch. 6:45. Someone was early for their routine, and that someone had the confidence of a senior officer. General David Collins entered the armory with the purposeful stride of a career officer beginning his daily inspection routine. At 54, Collins commanded the Special Operations Training Facility and had oversight of personnel assignments for some of the military's most classified programs. His reputation for attention to detail was legendary, and his presence in the armory at this hour meant he was conducting surprise inspections. "Good morning, Sergeant," Collins said, his voice carrying the authority of 3 decades in uniform. "Good morning, sir," Maria replied, setting down her cleaning rod, but continuing to work on her rifle. She had learned long ago that maintaining composure under scrutiny was essential to survival in the military hierarchy. Collins's attention was immediately drawn to the weapon spread across the maintenance bench. Even partially disassembled, it was clearly not standard military equipment. The custom modifications and precision machining spoke of capabilities far beyond what conventional infantry units required. "That's quite a rifle, Sergeant," Collins observed, moving closer to examine the components. "I don't see many 338 Lapua Magnums outside of specialized sniper units." "Thank you, sir." "She's been with me for 3 years," Maria replied, reassembling the bolt with practiced efficiency. Collins noted the possessive way Maria referred to her weapon not as government property or assigned equipment, but as a personal tool that belonged specifically to her. The modifications were extensive and expensive, representing an investment that exceeded what most enlisted personnel could afford. "Must have been quite a purchase for a sergeant's salary," Collins commented, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity about how an administrative specialist had acquired such sophisticated equipment. "Worth every penny, sir. What accuracy means the difference between mission success and failure. You don't compromise on equipment." The response struck Collins as unusual for someone whose official duties involved managing paperwork. Administrative personnel didn't typically speak about mission-critical accuracy with such matter-of-fact certainty. Something about Sergeant Rodriguez didn't add up, and Collins had spent too many years in special operations to ignore his instincts. When they started sending signals, Collins watched as Maria completed the rifles, reassembly with fluid precision that spoke of countless hours of practice. Her movements were economical and automatic, muscle memory guiding the complex process of transforming scattered components back into a precision instrument capable of placing bullets accurately at distances exceeding a mile. "You handle that weapon like you've had extensive training with it," Collins observed, noting how she manipulated each component without looking, her fingers moving with the confidence of someone who knew every part intimately. "Some specialized training, sir. Advanced marksmanship course during my initial assignment with the Rangers." Collins knew that advanced marksmanship training, while comprehensive, didn't typically result in the level of familiarity Maria demonstrated with her personal weapon. The modifications alone suggested experience that came from operational use rather than classroom instruction. "Sergeant Rodriguez, what was your previous assignment before joining Headquarters Company?" "Various postings with Ranger units, sir. Different locations, different operational requirements." The vague response raised more questions than it answered. Maria's entire demeanor suggested someone who was accustomed to operating in classified environments where specific details weren't discussed casually. Collins had seen that careful speech pattern before in operators whose missions existed. In the gray areas between official policy and national security necessity. "Wow, that's clearly a well-maintained weapon system," Collins said, making a mental note to dig deeper. "Carry on with your maintenance, Sergeant." "Thank you, sir." Collins continued his inspection tour, but his encounter with Maria had created an itch he couldn't scratch. Something fundamental didn't align with her current administrative role. The expensive personal weapon, the expert handling, the casual references to mission-critical accuracy all suggested operational experience that transcended routine military service. After completing his rounds, Collins returned to his office and activated his secure computer terminal. He accessed the personnel database that contained classified assignment records, expecting to find conventional career progression within Ranger units. What appeared on his screen made him pause. The file required additional clearance levels to access. That alone was unusual for an administrative specialist. Collins entered his general officer credentials and waited as the system processed his request. The screen that loaded contained warnings about information sensitivity that Collins rarely encountered outside of strategic intelligence briefings. Maria Rodriguez's complete service jacket was compartmentalized in ways that indicated operations at the highest levels of classification. Classified compartmentalized access required. The header read, Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, Operational. Record Summary. Collins scrolled through pages that painted a picture of missions conducted in the shadows of official military actions. Each entry detailed successful operations in locations where American military presence was officially denied. The statistics were staggering. 89 confirmed eliminations, maximum engagement range of over 3 kilometers, perfect mission success rate across deployments spanning multiple continents, current status read, administrative hold, psychological evaluation. Assigned to 75th Ranger Regiment Headquarters Company. The evaluation summary explained Maria's current situation. After 18 months of consecutive operational deployment, SGT Rodriguez exhibits symptoms consistent with prolonged exposure to high-stress combat operations. Recommended for temporary non-operational assignment to allow psychological decompression. Collins understood now why Maria was maintaining her rifle with such meticulous care despite being assigned to administrative duties. The weapon represented not just professional competence, but psychological continuity, a connection to her identity and purpose during a period when her official duties provided no outlet for the skills that defined her. Her morning maintenance routine wasn't just equipment care. It was therapy, keeping her connected to her capabilities while providing the structured focus she needed to process the psychological toll of operations that pushed human endurance beyond normal limits. A knock on his office door interrupted Collins's review of Maria's file. Enter. His aide, Captain Stevens, entered with the morning intelligence brief. Sir, we've received an urgent personnel request from Joint Special Operations Command. They need a precision marksman for a classified operation deployment within 24 hours. Collins read the mission parameters, noting requirements. That exactly matched the capabilities detailed in Maria Rodriguez's operational record. Extended range precision shooting in a denied area. Single opportunity for target elimination. No possibility of follow-up engagement. Sir, the mission profile is quite specific, Stevens continued. They're requesting someone with proven capability. At ranges exceeding 3,000 meters, with operational experience in similar environments. Collins looked at the classified mission briefing, then at Maria's personnel file still open on his screen. The correlation was too significant to ignore. Somewhere in the bureaucratic machinery of special operations, someone knew exactly what kind of asset was sitting in an administrative position at Fort Bragg. The timing felt deliberate, as if forces beyond his understanding had orchestrated this moment. But Collins had learned to trust the instincts that had kept him alive through his own operational years. Maria Rodriguez wasn't at Fort Bragg by accident, and this mission request wasn't coincidental. Captain, arrange a meeting with Sergeant Rodriguez from Headquarters Company. Inform her that I need to discuss a potential reassignment. Sir, according to the roster, Rodriguez is assigned to administrative duties. Captain, her actual capabilities are considerably different from what appears in routine personnel files. Stevens recognized the tone that indicated classified information beyond his clearance level. Understood, sir. When would you like to meet with her? This afternoon at 1400 hours. And Captain, this discussion is compartmentalized. The pieces were falling into place. But Collins suspected that Maria's administrative assignment was about to end in ways that would test everything she had learned during her months of psychological recovery. At precisely 1400 hours, Maria knocked on General Collins's office door. She had spent the morning wondering what kind of reassignment required a personal meeting with the facility commander. Administrative specialists typically received new orders through normal channels, not private discussions in general officers' offices. "Enter, Sergeant." Maria stepped into the office and assumed the position of attention. Collins gestured for her to take the chair across from his desk. The formality felt different from their morning encounter in the armory, more serious, weighted, with implications she couldn't yet identify. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I've had the opportunity to review your complete operational record." Maria's expression didn't change, but Collins noted a subtle shift in her posture, the alertness of someone who understood that classified information was being discussed. Her breathing remained steady, but her eyes sharpened with the focus. He had seen in operators preparing for mission briefings. "Sir, I'm not sure what you mean by complete record. My current assignment is administrative support. I mean your actual service history, Sergeant, not the administrative summary that appears in routine personnel files." Collins watched Maria process the implications of his statement. She was evaluating how much she knew, how much she could safely acknowledge, and what his knowledge meant for her current situation. "I see, sir." "Sergeant, your specialized training and operational experience represent capabilities that required years to develop and millions of dollars to perfect. Those capabilities don't disappear because of temporary administrative assignment." "No, sir." Collins leaned forward, his voice taking on the tone of a commander addressing operational requirements. "We've received a mission request that requires exactly your skill set. Extended-range precision shooting under adverse conditions in a denied area. Single-shot requirement. No opportunity for correction or follow-up." Maria was quiet for a moment, considering her response carefully. The psychological evaluation had prepared her for the possibility that her administrative assignment might be temporary, but she hadn't expected operational deployment to come so suddenly. "Sir, I'm currently on administrative status pending psychological evaluation completion." "I'm aware of your current status, Sergeant. I'm also aware that maintaining operational readiness is part of your evaluation process." Collins paused, allowing the weight of the statement to register. The mission request had included specific language about psychological fitness requirements, suggesting that whoever made the request understood both Maria's capabilities and her current circumstances. "Sergeant, I'm going to ask you directly. If American lives were at immediate risk and the mission required someone with your specific capabilities, would you be prepared to serve?" The question cut through all pretense and protocol. Collins was asking not whether she was officially cleared for operations, but whether the person who had completed 89 successful elimination missions still existed beneath the administrative facade. Maria met his gaze directly. "Sir, I've always been prepared to serve when the mission requires it. Even considering your current psychological evaluation status. Sir, my circumstances don't change my commitment to missions that protect American personnel." Collins nodded, having received the answer he'd hoped for. The Maria Rodriguez who had maintained a perfect operational record for nearly 4 years was still present, still ready to answer when duty called. "Sergeant Rodriguez, you're being temporarily reassigned to Joint Special Operations Command for immediate deployment. Mission duration classified, location classified, operational parameters to be briefed upon arrival." Collins handed Maria a sealed envelope containing her reassignment orders. The weight of the paper felt significantly heavier than administrative transfers, carrying the authority of classified operations conducted at the highest levels of government. "Report to Building 1847 at 0500 tomorrow morning." Bring your personal equipment and be prepared for immediate transportation to the operational area. Maria accepted the orders, understanding that her months of administrative duties were ending and her operational purpose was being restored. The relief was overwhelming, like being allowed to breathe again after holding her breath for 6 months. Sir, may I ask about the specific nature of this mission? High-value target elimination at extended range in hostile territory. The kind of mission that requires someone who has never failed when American lives depended on precision. Collins consulted Maria's file one more time, noting the statistics that had originally caught his attention. According to your record, you've completed 89 elimination missions with 100% success rate. Yes, sir. This mission cannot be number 90 on that record with anything less than perfect execution. It won't be, sir. The confidence in Maria's voice carried the weight of years spent operating at the intersection of advanced technology and extraordinary human capability. Collins recognized the transformation. The administrative specialist was disappearing, replaced by the precision operator whose reputation existed only in classified files. Maria stood to leave, then paused at the door. Sir, may I ask how you identified my operational background? Collins smiled. Sergeant, when someone maintains a 338 Lapua Magnum with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker and speaks about mission-critical accuracy with absolute confidence, it suggests experience beyond administrative duties. I understand, sir. Sergeant Rodriguez, the military has invested extraordinary resources developing your capabilities. Tomorrow, those capabilities serve their intended purpose. That evening, Maria sat in her quarters performing final maintenance on her rifle. Before deployment, the ritual that had sustained her through months of administrative assignment now served as preparation for returning to operational status. Each component of the weapon held memories of missions that attested every aspect of her training. Tomorrow would add another memory to that collection, hopefully one that ended with mission success and safe extraction. The psychological evaluation had taught her to compartmentalize the human cost of her profession from the operational necessity that defined her missions. Each target eliminated represented threats neutralized before they could harm American personnel. The mathematics were simple. One shot taken from extreme range prevented larger conflicts that would cost exponentially more lives. Maria's 338 Lapua Magnum was ready for tomorrow's mission. So was she. The transportation to the operational area began before dawn with a convoy of unmarked vehicles that moved through the darkness like ghosts. Maria sat in the back of a modified SUV, her rifle case secured beside her, watching the landscape change from familiar military installations to terrain that suggested they were heading somewhere that didn't appear on public maps. Captain Jake Morrison, her mission handler, sat across from her reviewing classified briefing materials on a hardened tablet. Morrison was a veteran of special operations himself, someone who understood the unique requirements of precision missions conducted in denied areas. Target is a high-value individual whose elimination will prevent a coordinated attack on American diplomatic facilities, Morrison explained, showing Maria satellite imagery of the operational area. Intelligence indicates the attack is scheduled within the next 72 hours. The photographs revealed a compound built into mountainous terrain that provided natural defensive advantages. Multiple buildings connected by covered walkways, with clear fields of fire that would make conventional assault extremely costly in terms of American casualties. Engagement range? Maria asked, studying the topographical features that would affect her shot placement. 3,200 meters from the designated firing position to the primary target area. Environmental conditions include variable wind patterns due to mountain terrain, temperature differential between early morning and midday, and potential weather changes that could affect visibility. Maria nodded, already calculating the ballistic requirements for a shot at that distance. The range pushed the limits of even her advanced equipment, requiring perfect execution of every variable from atmospheric pressure to target movement prediction, extraction timeline, immediate departure after shot confirmation. Transport will be standing by at a predetermined location, approximately 2 kilometers from your firing position. Total time on ground should not exceed 6 hours. The briefing continued with detailed intelligence about enemy security arrangements, potential complications, and contingency plans for various scenarios. Everything about the mission suggested careful planning by people who understood both the capabilities and limitations of precision shooting at extreme ranges as they traveled deeper into territory that officially didn't exist on any maps. Maria felt the familiar transformation taking place. The administrative specialist was disappearing, replaced by the operator whose training had been honed through years of missions exactly like this one. Her breathing steadied, her focus narrowed, and her mind began processing the tactical requirements that would determine mission success or failure. The final briefing took place in a forward operating base that consisted of nothing more than camouflage tents and communication equipment. The commanding officer, Colonel James Parker, had specifically requested Maria for this mission based on intelligence that suggested conventional solutions were inadequate. Sergeant Rodriguez, your target is considered one of the most dangerous terrorist organizers currently operating in this region, Parker explained, showing her enhanced surveillance footage of the compound. His elimination will disrupt the network responsible for attacks that have killed dozens of American personnel over the past year. The weight of the mission settled on Maria's shoulders like a familiar burden. She had carried similar responsibility 89 times before, but the pressure never diminished. If anything, the stakes felt higher now after months of administrative duties that had allowed her to remember what normal life felt like. Sir, I'll need 4 hours to study the terrain and atmospheric conditions before taking position. You'll have all the time you need, Sergeant. This mission succeeds, or we face the possibility of coordinated attacks that could escalate into regional conflict. Maria spent the remaining daylight hours studying every aspect of the operational environment. Wind patterns, temperature variations, humidity levels, and terrain features that could affect bullet trajectory across a distance of over 3 kilometers. The shot would challenge every aspect of her training and equipment capabilities. Her .338 Lapua Magnum had been configured specifically for extended range shooting in mountain environments. The ballistic computer could calculate solutions for atmospheric variables, but the final shot placement would depend on Maria's ability to read conditions that couldn't be measured by instruments. As darkness fell, she moved to the designated firing position with the stealth that had kept her alive through years of similar operations. The location provided concealment, while offering a clear line of sight to the target compound. Maria settled into position and began the methodical process of preparing for a shot that would have to be perfect on the first attempt. Through her scope, the compound looked peaceful in the pre-dawn darkness. But intelligence indicated that, within those buildings, plans were being finalized for attacks that would cost American lives. The mathematics of precision shooting extended beyond ballistics to include the strategic implications of success or failure. Maria's breathing slowed as she entered the mental state that had made her legendary among people who knew her operational record. Time seemed to compress as she focused on atmospheric conditions, target behavior patterns, and the countless variables that would determine where her bullet traveled. Across the 3,200 meters between her position and the target, the sun was beginning to rise, creating thermal currents that would affect bullet trajectory. Maria had perhaps 30 minutes of optimal shooting conditions before changing atmospheric conditions would make the shot too risky to attempt. Her finger found the trigger as she tracked movement in the target compound through her scope. Somewhere in those buildings was a person whose death would save American lives and prevent regional conflict. The responsibility was enormous, but Maria had carried similar burdens before. The shot, when it came, would represent the culmination of a decade of training and nearly 4 years of operational experience. Success would add another entry to a classified record that existed only in files, requiring general officer clearance to access. But first, she had to wait for the perfect moment when all variables aligned and the shot became not just possible, but inevitable. Dawn brought thermal currents that painted invisible rivers of heated air between Maria's position and the target compound. Through her Schmidt and Bender scope, she could see the heat distortions that would affect bullet trajectory, requiring calculations that pushed the limits of both human capability and advanced technology. The ballistic computer provided solutions based on atmospheric data, but the final adjustments would depend on Maria's ability to read conditions that couldn't be measured by instruments. Wind speed at ground level was calm, but mountain terrain created variable air currents at different altitudes that her bullet would encounter during its flight. At precisely 0700 hours, movement appeared in the compound. Maria's target emerged from the main building with the confidence of someone who believed himself safe behind multiple layers of security. Intelligence had provided detailed photographs, but seeing him through the scope made the mission personal in ways that training couldn't fully prepare operators to handle. Target acquired, Maria whispered into her communication device. Standing by for authorization. Authorization granted. Execute when ready. The words carried the weight of presidential authority channeled through multiple levels of command. Structure. Somewhere in Washington, decision-makers had determined that this person's death was necessary to prevent attacks that could escalate into regional war. Maria adjusted her scope for the precise range measurement. 3,212 meters. The bullet would travel for nearly 4 seconds before reaching its target, requiring her to predict not just where her target would be, but how atmospheric conditions would affect the projectile's path. Her breathing, slow to the rhythm then, had become second nature through years of precision shooting. The target moved across the compound with predictable patterns, following security protocols that actually made him more vulnerable by creating routine behaviors. Wind conditions were optimal, less than 5 miles per hour with minimal variation across the shooting corridor. Temperature was stable at 42 degrees Fahrenheit with low humidity. Atmospheric pressure was within normal parameters. All variables pointed toward conditions as perfect as she was likely to encounter. The target paused near the compounds. Communications building, checking his watch with the impatience of someone operating on a strict timeline. Intelligence suggested he was coordinating final details for attacks, scheduled within the next 24 hours. Maria's crosshairs settled on center mass, adjusted for the ballistic drop that would occur over such an extreme distance. Her finger found the trigger's breakpoint at 1.8 pounds of pressure. The rifle was perfectly stable, her breathing controlled. Her mind focused with the clarity that came from years of similar moments. The shot broke clean and true, the rifle's recoil absorbed by her prone position and expert handling. Through the scope, Maria tracked the bullet's impact with professional detachment that masked the emotional weight of what she had just accomplished. Target eliminated. Confirmed kill. The words were transmitted to command elements who would verify mission completion through independent surveillance assets. Within minutes, confirmation came back that the high-value target had been successfully eliminated with no compromise to operational security. Excellent work, Sergeant. Proceed to extraction point. Maria began breaking down her equipment with the methodical precision that had kept her alive through 89 previous missions. Every piece of equipment was accounted for, every trace of her presence eliminated. The firing position would show no evidence that an American sniper had been present. The extraction proceeded without complications, but Maria knew that the true impact of her shot would unfold over the coming days. As intelligence agencies monitored whether the planned attacks had been disrupted, success in precision operations wasn't measured just in target elimination, but in the larger strategic objectives that justified such extreme measures. During the flight back to Fort Bragg, Colonel Parker provided preliminary assessment of the mission's strategic impact. Intelligence indicates that elimination of your target has disrupted coordination for multiple planned attacks. Communications intercepts suggest the terrorist network is in disarray. The mathematics were clear. One shot taken from extreme range had prevented attacks that could have cost dozens of American lives, while escalating regional tensions into potential warfare. The moral complexity of her profession remained challenging, but the strategic necessity was undeniable. Sergeant Rodriguez, this mission represents exactly why we maintain capabilities like yours. There are threats that can only be addressed through precision application of lethal force at ranges where conventional solutions are impossible. Maria nodded, understanding that her temporary return to operational status had reminded everyone involved why operators with her capabilities were too valuable to waste on administrative duties. The psychological evaluation had been necessary, but the mission had proven that she retained the skills that made her irreplaceable. As Fort Bragg appeared on the horizon, Maria reflected on the transformation that had occurred over the past 48 hours. The administrative specialist who had been performing maintenance rituals in the armory had been replaced by the precision operator, whose reputation existed only in classified files. But the mission also represented validation of the psychological support she had received. The months of counseling had taught her to process the emotional weight of her profession while maintaining the technical capabilities that define her value to special operations. The .338 Lapua Magnum secured beside her had once again proven itself as more than just a weapon. It was a precision instrument that transformed training and experience into strategic effects at distances where conventional solutions were inadequate. Mission 90 was complete, adding another entry to a classified record that documented capabilities existing at the intersection of advanced technology and extraordinary human skill. But as the aircraft touched down at Fort Bragg, Maria knew that questions remained about her future assignment and whether her administrative duties would resume or give way to operational status that matched her proven capabilities. General Collins was waiting on the tarmac when Maria's transport arrived at Fort Bragg. The presence of the facility commander at an operational return suggested that Mission 90 had attracted attention at levels far above routine special operations activities. "Welcome back, Sergeant Rodriguez," Collins said as Maria disembarked with her equipment. "I trust the mission met expectations?" "Yes, sir. Objective accomplished with no compromise to operational security." Collins nodded, noting the professional demeanor that masked whatever personal impact the mission might have had. Maria had returned from her 90th successful elimination with the same composed bearing that characterized operators who had learned to compartmentalize the emotional weight of their profession. "Sergeant, report to my office at 1400 hours. We need to discuss your future assignment status." The formal language suggested important decisions were being made about Maria's career trajectory. Administrative personnel didn't typically receive personal debriefings from general officers. But then again, administrative personnel didn't typically complete precision elimination missions at ranges exceeding 3 kilometers. Maria spent the morning cleaning her rifle and processing equipment through security protocols designed to ensure no classified materials remained in personal possession. The ritual provided psychological continuity between operational deployment and garrison routine. helping her transition between different aspects of her military identity. At precisely 1400 hours, she knocked on General Collins's office door. "Enter." Collins gestured for her to take the chair across from his desk, then activated a secure communication device that indicated their conversation would be classified at the highest levels. "Sergeant Rodriguez, your recent mission has generated significant interest among senior leadership. Joint Special Operations Command has submitted a formal request for your permanent assignment to operational status." The words carried implications that extended far beyond routine personnel decisions. Permanent operational assignment meant returning to the classified world where her skills were most valuable. But it also meant accepting the psychological toll that came with regular exposure to mission requirements like the one she had just completed. "Sir, what about my psychological evaluation status? Dr. Williams has submitted her final assessment. According to her report, you've successfully processed the psychological impact of your previous deployments and demonstrated readiness for continued operational assignment." Collins consulted a classified document on his desk. Her report specifically notes that your ability to maintain technical proficiency while addressing emotional health concerns represents exceptional psychological resilience. The evaluation process had been more successful than Maria had dared hope. Months of counseling sessions had taught her to separate the human cost of her profession from the strategic necessity that defined her missions, while maintaining the capabilities that made her irreplaceable. "However," Collins continued, "your next assignment comes with additional responsibilities. You're being promoted to staff sergeant and assigned as senior instructor for the Army's Precision Marksman course." The announcement represented recognition that extended beyond personal career advancement. Teaching responsibilities meant sharing knowledge accumulated through years of operational experience, helping develop the next generation of precision shooters who would carry similar burdens. "Sir, I'm honored by the promotion and assignment. Will instructional duties include operational deployment as required?" "Yes, Sergeant. Your teaching position includes availability for missions that require your specific expertise. The Army has decided that your capabilities are too valuable to restrict to either pure operations or pure instruction." Collins handed Maria her promotion orders and new assignment documents. "You'll maintain your current quarters and security clearances, but your primary duties will involve developing training programs based on your operational experience." The assignment represented the best possible outcome from months of uncertainty about her future role. Teaching would provide purpose and professional fulfillment while maintaining the operational readiness that defined her military identity. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, there's one additional matter. Your recent mission has been documented in your official record, bringing your confirmed elimination count to an even 90. That statistic places you among the most successful precision marksmen in American military history." The number carried weight that extended beyond simple accounting. 90 successful eliminations represented thousands of American lives saved through preventing attacks, disrupting terrorist networks, and maintaining strategic advantage in regions where conventional military presence was impossible. "Sir, those statistics represent mission success rather than personal achievement. Each engagement was necessary to protect American interests and personnel." Collins nodded, recognizing the professional humility that characterized operators who understood the larger strategic context of their missions. "Nevertheless, your record demonstrates capabilities that justify the resources invested in your training and development." The meeting concluded with administrative details about her new assignment timeline and reporting structure. Maria would begin her teaching duties within 2 weeks, allowing time to develop curriculum based on operational experience that existed only in classified files. As she left Collins's office with her promotion orders, Maria felt a sense of closure about the psychological journey that had begun with her administrative assignment. The months of evaluation and counseling had been necessary to process experiences that pushed human endurance beyond normal limits. But the mission had proven that the operator who had completed 89 successful eliminations still existed, still retained the capabilities that made her valuable to special operations, and still possessed the psychological resilience necessary for continued service at the highest levels of classified activities. A 338 Lapua Magnum had once again served its purpose as more than just a weapon. It was the physical manifestation of skills that existed at the intersection of advanced technology, extensive training, and extraordinary human capability, skills that would now be passed on to the next generation of precision marksmen through her instructional duties. The administrative specialist who had been cleaning her rifle in the armory 6 months ago had been transformed back into the operational asset, whose capabilities were too valuable to waste on routine duties. Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez's first day as senior instructor began at the Army's Precision Marksman Training Facility, a complex of ranges and classrooms designed to develop capabilities that existed at the intersection of advanced technology and human skill. Her students were experienced soldiers selected for advanced training, but none possessed the operational background that informed every aspect of her instruction. Precision shooting at extended ranges requires more than technical proficiency, Maria explained to her first class of 12 soldiers. It demands understanding of atmospheric physics, ballistics calculations, target behavior analysis, and psychological preparation for missions where failure costs American lives. The classroom fell silent as students processed the weight of her words. Most had completed basic sniper training, but Maria's reputation within the classified community preceded her. They understood they were learning from someone whose operational record was both legendary and classified. Your weapons are tools, but they're also extensions of your professional identity. The rifle you carry represents years of training investment and millions of dollars in equipment development. More importantly, it represents capabilities that protect American interests in ways that can never be officially acknowledged. Maria's teaching methodology combined technical instruction with operational context that gave meaning to complex subjects. Students learned ballistics calculations not as abstract mathematics, but as life and death requirements for missions conducted in denied areas where conventional solutions were inadequate. The practical exercises took place on ranges, configured to simulate operational conditions. Students practiced shots at distances ranging from 800 to 2,000 meters, learning to account for variables that affected bullet trajectory across extreme ranges. Environmental conditions change constantly during extended missions, Maria explained during a field exercise. Wind speed and direction, temperature variation, humidity levels, atmospheric pressure, all these factors affect where your bullet travels. Your ability to read and compensate for these conditions determines mission success or failure. Her instructional approach emphasized decision-making under pressure, requiring students to calculate ballistic solutions while managing time constraints and simulated stress conditions. The training was designed to prepare operators for missions where second chances didn't exist. 3 weeks into the program, Maria received notification of an urgent personnel request from Special Operations Command. High-value target elimination. Mission in a location that required someone with specific experience in mountain terrain shooting. The request included details that matched exactly the conditions where Maria had completed several of her most challenging operational assignments. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, you're requested for temporary deployment, Collins informed her during a classified briefing. Duration approximately 1 week. Operational parameters similar to your recent mission. The timing presented challenges for her instructional responsibilities. But Maria understood that operational requirements took precedence over training schedules. Her students would benefit from real-world experience that informed her teaching when she returned. "Sir, I can arrange for Lieutenant Colonel Barnes to cover my classes during deployment." "Approved. Report for mission briefing tomorrow at 0800 hours." That evening, Maria conducted equipment preparation with the same meticulous attention to detail that had characterized her previous 90 missions. Her students observed the ritual, understanding they were witnessing professional procedures. That represented the culmination of a decade's training and operational experience. "Watch how she handles each component," Lieutenant Thompson whispered to his fellow students. "Every movement has purpose. Nothing is casual or rushed." Maria's 338 Lapua Magnum received the comprehensive maintenance that ensured perfect performance under operational conditions. Each component was inspected, cleaned, and tested to tolerances that exceeded factory specifications. The rifle represented more than professional equipment. It was the physical manifestation of capabilities that existed only in classified files. "Staff Sergeant, will you be able to tell us about this mission when you return?" asked Sergeant Williams, one of her most promising students. "The mission itself will remain classified, but the lessons learned will inform our future training exercises. Operational experience provides context that makes classroom instruction meaningful." The deployment proceeded with the efficiency that characterized special operations conducted at the highest levels of classification. Maria's target was a terrorist, financier whose elimination would disrupt funding for attacks planned against American diplomatic facilities throughout the region. The shot was taken from a concealed position at 2,900 meters, under atmospheric conditions that challenged every aspect of her training and equipment capabilities. Mission 91 was completed successfully with no compromise. To operational security, adding another entry to a classified record that documented capabilities at the peyotes, intersection of advanced technology and extraordinary human skill. Upon returning to Fort Bragg, Maria found that her temporary absence had actually enhanced her credibility among students. They understood they were learning from someone whose operational assignments continued alongside teaching responsibilities. The mission provided valuable insights for our training program, she explained during her first class after return. Extended range precision shooting requires perfect integration of technical knowledge, equipment capabilities, and psychological preparation. Classroom instruction provides the foundation, but operational experience validates everything we teach. Her teaching now carried additional authority derived from recent operational success. Students understood they were receiving instruction from someone whose capabilities were actively employed in classified missions that protected American interests worldwide. The balance between instructional duties and operational availability represented the military's recognition that Maria's skills were too valuable to restrict to single-purpose assignment. Her teaching developed the next generation of precision marksmen while maintaining readiness for missions that required her specific expertise. Colonel Parker, the Special Operations Training Command Director, visited Maria's class to observe instructional techniques that were producing exceptional results. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, your students are achieving proficiency levels that exceed historical averages for this program." "Sir, operational context provides motivation that pure technical instruction cannot match. When students understand the strategic importance of precision shooting, they approach training with seriousness that produces better results." The visit concluded with Parker's recommendation that Maria's teaching methodology be incorporated into training programs throughout Special Operations Command. Her approach demonstrated that operators with extensive field experience could effectively transfer knowledge to the next generation while maintaining operational readiness. As the training cycle neared completion, Maria reflected on the professional satisfaction that came from developing capabilities in others while maintaining her own operational edge. Teaching provided purpose that balanced the psychological toll of precision elimination missions, creating sustainable career progression that utilized her experience while addressing her need for meaningful service. Her 91st successful elimination had proven that months of psychological evaluation and administrative assignment hadn't diminished her capabilities. If anything, the recovery period had enhanced her effectiveness by providing emotional tools for processing the weight of her profession. The 338 Lapua Magnum that had defined her operational identity now served dual purposes as both mission-critical equipment and instructional aid. Students learned from observing the weapon that had completed 91 successful eliminations, understanding they were witnessing equipment that represented the pinnacle of precision shooting technology. But more importantly, they were learning from someone whose operational record demonstrated that exceptional capabilities could be sustained over years of deployment, while maintaining the psychological health necessary for continued service at the highest levels of classified operations. 6 months after her promotion to staff sergeant and assignment as senior instructor, Maria Rodriguez stood before a graduation ceremony that represented the culmination of her first complete training cycle. 12 soldiers who had entered her program as experienced marksmen were leaving as precision specialists, capable of operations at ranges that challenged the limits of current technology. General Collins presided over the ceremony, recognizing achievements that extended beyond individual student success to validation of instructional methods that were revolutionizing special operations training. The students graduating today represent the most advanced precision marksman training in American military history, he announced to an audience that included senior officers from throughout Special Operations Command. Their instructor, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, has demonstrated that operational experience translates into teaching excellence that produces capabilities we didn't know were possible through conventional training methods. Maria felt pride in her students' achievements that differed from the satisfaction of successful missions. Teaching had provided purpose that balanced the psychological weight of precision elimination operations while creating sustainable career progression that utilized her experience for strategic benefit. Lieutenant Thompson, her most promising student, had achieved qualification scores that exceeded previous program records. During final examinations, he had successfully engaged targets at distances approaching 2,500 meters, under adverse weather conditions that challenged even experienced operators. Staff Sergeant, your teaching methods prepared us for operational requirements that classroom instruction alone couldn't address, Thompson said during the graduation reception. Understanding the strategic context of precision shooting made the technical training meaningful in ways that changed how we approached the profession. The program's success had attracted attention from military leadership who recognized that operators with extensive field experience could effectively transfer knowledge while maintaining operational readiness. Maria's methodology was being incorporated into training programs throughout Special Operations Command, extending her influence beyond direct students to the broader community of precision specialists. 3 days after graduation, Maria received notification of another urgent personnel request from Joint Special Operations Command. The mission parameters indicated requirements that matched exactly the conditions where she had completed some of her most challenging operational assignments. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, you're requested for deployment to eliminate a high-value target whose removal will prevent coordinated attacks on American facilities, Collins informed her during a classified briefing. The shot will be taken from extreme range under atmospheric conditions that require someone with your specific experience. The request represented validation that her instructional duties hadn't diminished operational capabilities. If anything, teaching had enhanced her understanding of precision shooting fundamentals by requiring her to articulate techniques that had become instinctive through years of field experience. Sir, this deployment will interrupt the next training cycle preparation. Your replacement instructor has been briefed and is prepared to handle initial curriculum development. This mission requires capabilities that only you possess. The operational deployment lasted 8 days and required Maria to operate in mountainous terrain that presented ballistic challenges similar to several of her previous assignments. The target was eliminated successfully from a range of 140 meters under wind conditions that required calculations at the limits of both human capability and equipment performance. Mission 92 added another entry to a classified record that now documented capability sustained over nearly 5 years of operational deployment. More importantly, it demonstrated that the balance between teaching and operations was sustainable, providing career progression that utilized her experience while maintaining the skills that made her irreplaceable. Upon returning to Fort Bragg, Maria found her replacement instructor had successfully managed the program during her absence. The teaching methodology she had developed was proving effective even when implemented by other qualified personnel, suggesting that her innovations could be scaled throughout Special Operations Training Command. Staff Sergeant, your instructional techniques are being adopted by precision marksman programs throughout the military, Colonel Parker informed her during a program review meeting. The combination of technical instruction with operational context is producing results that exceed all previous training benchmarks. The recognition represented professional validation that extended beyond personal achievement to strategic impact on military capabilities. Maria's teaching was developing operators whose skills would protect American interests in ways that could never be officially acknowledged, multiplying her individual impact through the capabilities she created in others. Her students were now being assigned to operational units where they would apply training that combined technical proficiency with understanding of strategic context. Several had already completed successful missions that validated the effectiveness of instructional methods based on extensive field experience. That evening, Maria performed her routine maintenance on a .338 Lapua Magnum that had defined her career and now served dual purposes as operational equipment and instructional aid. The weapon had accompanied her through 92 successful elimination missions while helping teach the next generation of precision specialists. Each component held memories of missions that had tested every aspect of her training, from Arctic conditions to desert heat, from urban environments to mountainous terrain. But the rifle also represented future capabilities being developed through students who would carry similar equipment into operations that protected American personnel worldwide. As she completed the maintenance ritual, Maria reflected on the professional journey that had transformed her from an operator struggling with psychological trauma to an instructor whose innovations were revolutionizing special operations training. The months of administrative assignment had been necessary for recovery, but they had also provided perspective that enhanced her effectiveness as both operator and teacher. The balance between operational deployment and instructional duties represented sustainable career progression that addressed both strategic requirements and personal fulfillment. Maria's capabilities were too valuable to restrict to single-purpose assignment, but her teaching multiplied individual impact through developing capabilities in others. Her 92 successful eliminations documented precision shooting at the intersection of advanced technology and extraordinary human skill. But her teaching represented legacy that would extend far beyond individual operational achievements, creating capabilities that would protect American interests for decades to come. The administrative specialist who had been cleaning her rifle in the armory 18 months ago had been transformed into an operator whose influence extended throughout the special operations community. Her precision shooting skills were legendary within classified circles, But her teaching innovations were changing how the military developed capabilities that existed in the shadows of official policy. Maria Rodriguez had found purpose that balanced the psychological weight of precision elimination operations with the satisfaction of developing exceptional capabilities in others. Her career represented proof that operators with extensive field experience could maintain operational readiness while contributing to strategic objectives through instructional excellence. The .338 Lapua Magnum secured in its case represented more than personal equipment. It was a precision instrument that had served American interests through 92 successful missions while helping develop the next generation of operators who would carry similar weapons into classified operations that protected national security interests worldwide. Her story would never appear in official records accessible to the public, but within the classified community, Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez had become a legend whose operational achievements were matched only by her contributions to developing capabilities that extended far beyond individual performance. The morning maintenance ritual would continue, connecting her to operational identity while serving as instructional demonstration for students who understood they were learning from someone whose capabilities existed at the pinnacle of precision. Shooting excellence. Mission 93 was already being planned, but so was the next training cycle that would develop operators whose skills would multiply Maria's individual impact through capabilities that protected American personnel in denied areas where conventional solutions were inadequate. The balance was perfect, sustainable, and strategically valuable in ways that justified every resource invested in developing and maintaining capabilities that existed only in classified files buried so deep that most general officers would never see them. But General Collins knew, and that knowledge had changed everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Life Stories community. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world.